Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Jack nasty. You didn't go up there to fish. You and him.
Listen to me, you don't know nothing about her.
I'm gonna yell from it around.
Or I'll make you eat the fucking floor.
Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Daddy?
Elma?
Bye, Daddy. Bye.
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Pint. That's right, it's June, which means it's Pride Month here and there and everywhere. It's Pride Month everywhere, not just here on The Pint, but we're going to celebrate a movie that is very important to the LGBTQ Plus movement because we are allies here at The Pint. My name is John.
My name is LBG.
LBG. Lloyd.
It's my real initials, yep.
Lloyd with big old gonads.
Yeah, that's it.
So last year, if you remember, between June and July, because we had July and Pride over on the Pint Insider. If you're not a member of the Insider, run over to patreon.com/thepint, and you can join up for as little as $2.50 a month. You get usually 2 extra episodes a month. Last year, we talked about Al Pacino is cruising. And that was an interesting one over here on the regular feed. And on the Insider, we talked about the movie that I probably pawed at myself for at least 3 times while watching. Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon are Bound.
Bound. That was so good.
Bound. So both of those movies I enjoyed,
yeah.
But I really loved Bound.
Yeah,
and not just for.
Go ahead.
No, you go first.
I ended up buying the special edition Blu-ray after we did that episode.
Did you? I haven't bought it yet. I should. And it's not for the obvious reasons. It's not because Jennifer Tilly is a fucking 19 out of 10. It was just a really good movie. But this month we're going to be doing 2 as well. The movie we'll be talking about here today. And then later in the month on the Patreon, along with Lloyd's girlfriend Candy, we'll be talking about Call Me By Your Name. That's right, the movie that features a cannibal in real life and a scene where someone eats a peach filled with cum, from what I understand.
Cum peach.
I've never seen the movie, but I know that it has the reputation of being the movie where a guy eats a cum peach. So, this episode, we will be talking about Brokeback Mountain. Let's get into it.
Brokeback.
Lock and load!
Fire!
All right, so right off the bat, before we get into the film, I did want to throw out this website because we did something along the same lines when we did our Black History Month stuff. And it's important, we're going to have fun. We'll make some jokes. We'll do some fun stuff here. But, it's not easy being a member of the LGBTQ plus community. We're in a world where, and we'll talk about it in this movie very much, we're in a world where we have progressed heavily in our views of that stuff. And we also somehow are still in the Stone Age in many ways.
Right.
It's not
duality.
Easy. It's a big duality. I can't imagine what it must be like to be, a homosexual male or a lesbian and just wanting to love who you want to love. We get one go around in this life. And imagine if you couldn't do what you wanted to do. That's not like murdering people. Like that's an everyday functionality of life, loving somebody, being loved. And you can't do it because your parents don't like it, your religion doesn't like it. It's hard. So there is a website called the trevorproject.org, which is kind of geared towards members of the LGBTQ plus community, younger members. It's kind of got a heavy anti-suicide message. There is a crisis help hotline, education for teachers and for parents who need to learn about, going through this stuff when their kids come out to them or tell them various things. Pride history, right? So if you want to check that out, or if you know somebody that's struggling, or if you have a kid that's struggling, whatever, you're listeners of the pint, maybe you have something going on like that. thetrevorproject.org. It's a pretty good base of like information for.
All right, I never heard of that.
Yeah, and I'm going to just from the rest of this episode when we say it, I'm just going to say the L community because it's a long one. I respect it, but it's a long one.
And you stumble over it. You change the order. It's just hard
so
to say.
I'm going to say the L community from here on out. So Brokeback Mountain was released limited in the United States on December 9th of 2005. It was directed by Ang Lee. At the 78th Academy Awards, Ang Lee won Best Director for this film. The film also won Best Adapted Screenplay and Score. Best Score as well. So a 3 Oscar winner. Very, 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 at the time, controversial because this is one of the movies that lost to Crash, which is a piece of shit movie, but also is kind of considered like one of the biggest, like, what the fuck moments. In 2018, The Hollywood Reporter did a poll of biggest what the fuck moments in Oscar history, and Brokeback losing to Crash was either number 1 or number 2. If you know Ang Lee, you know that he made some other movies. Very popular one, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He made Life of Pi. And he made the 2003 Hulk with Eric Bana. That was his film before this. This movie was written by a guy named Larry McMurtry. Now, you might know that name, and I know that name.
I know that name.
Mostly considered a novelist, but his novels are all fucking bangers that eventually became, like, known film property. So, if you've ever heard of The Last Picture Show, which was the movie was recently covered on our good friends, The Contrarians show, from the early 70s. That's a Larry McMurtry novel. If you'd ever heard of Lonesome Dove, that's a Larry McMurtry novel. That's a very popular Western miniseries from the 80s. And a little film called Terms of Endearment was also a Larry McMurtry novel.
Did you cry?
Never saw Terms of Endearment.
Oh, you didn't see it? Yeah.
Never saw it.
I saw it definitely with the 2 brothers and the mother. Whew.
Yeah, never saw it. I can imagine, though. Diana Osana was the co-writer of this film, of the screenplay. She also is a producer of the film, and she also discovered the original story, which was a short story in the New Yorker magazine on October 13th, 1997. She read it. She went to her writing partner, Larry McMurtry, and said, "Can we make a screenplay out of this?" And he said, "Let's do it." She also has written a lot of TV westerns with McMurtry, so she's kind of his writing partner. Comanche Moon, which I think was a Lonesome Dove sequel, Dead Man's Walk, and Streets of Laredo. Now, the short story...
I'm just waiting to see how you pronounce her last name.
Oh, I know how to pronounce it, because
okay,
I worked with a guy with this name.
Oh, okay.
Years ago. So, the short story was written by a woman from Connecticut, by the way, Norwich, Connecticut, and also just a New Englander in total. She lived in Vermont and Maine as well at different points. Annie Proulx. Proulx is Proulx.
Okay.
Yes. My boss used to hate that guy, and the guy's name was Ron Proulx, and every time my boss would say his name in full, because he didn't like him, he would add a little bit to it, and he would be like, you got to go out there and help Ron Proulx, because he couldn't stand him. But yeah, it's Proulx. Some of her novels that she's written, That Old Ace in the Hole, Accordion Crimes, and another one that became a movie with Kevin Spacey called The Shipping News. This film was filmed between June of 2004 and August of 2004, and it was filmed in Wyoming, which is where, in the story, Brokeback Mountain is. It was also filmed in New Mexico and heavily filmed. A lot of the interiors and like bar sets and the store, that was all in Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff in Canada. In 2018, the Library of Congress, Lloyd always brings this up, so I had to bring it up, put this movie into the National Film Registry. And I didn't write it all down. What is it? Significant culturally, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So in 2018, this was thrown in there. And as we get through the movie, if you've seen it or if you haven't seen it, the movie takes place between 1963 and 1983. It's a 20-year time span. So just in case you hadn't seen it, because I've never seen this movie before. Lloyd, you have seen this, right?
I have seen it, not in the movie theater, but not too long after it came out. You know, I was just like, all right, what's all the hubbub about this movie? And I'll save what I thought about it until the end.
Good, because that's what we do here on The Pint.
That's right.
Why don't we get into the cast?
Bring me everyone. What do you mean everyone?
So this thing is definitely full of stars. It stars Heath Ledger as Ennis Delmar. From the beginning, he wanted to portray this character because he thought he was more complex than the other character. You know, Heath Ledger, 10 Things I Hate About You, The Patriot, A Knight's Tale, Lords of Dogtown, and of course, The Dark Knight, where he played the Joker. Unfortunately, passed away.
Yeah, it's
not long after.
Really sad because I really am not too familiar with Heath Ledger's most of his movies other than The Dark Knight. I've seen a few of them. I've never seen A Knight's Tale, which I know is very popular.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And I got to tell you, man, this performance is incredible. And one of the things I liked about it so much, even though it's kind of hard, is like we joke around a lot, like on the show with you and Larry, like how you guys watch everything in subtitles. I don't.
Yeah.
Heath Ledger's mannerisms and his voice and the way he speaks in this movie, I only got about 65% of his dialogue. 65.
It's very interesting, right? And he's always kind of got his head down. He's got his hand near his mouth.
He is one of the most tightly wound movie characters, you know, and that's a big part of the story. We'll get into it. But he is so tightly wound, repressed, you might say. And he just talks like this through the whole thing. He's a real cowboy.
And then we have Jake Gyllenhaal as Jack Twist. Jake is the son of director Stephen Gyllenhaal. Did City Slickers, Donnie Darko, Zodiac, Source Code, Nightcrawler, and most recently, you guys talked about him, Roadhouse 2024.
Yeah, it's crazy this movie's 20 years old because he's still, even though he's probably a few years younger than me, he still seems like a younger guy, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Good acting family.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even put it together until after watching this movie, but his sister is in The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger. So he acted with both Gyllenhaals before he passed. Yeah, very soon next to each other, yeah. Yep.
Then we have Michelle Williams as Alma Beers Delmar, the husband of Heath Ledger in this movie. So I don't really know much about her. I know she's popular and famous. And
the wife, you said husband.
What'd I say? Husband? Yeah. The wife. I'm sorry.
Okay, look, it's an LGBTQ episode, but you don't have to start transgendering people, Lloyd. Stop transgendering people, Lloyd.
My bad. I got to stop doing that. Yeah. So, like I said, I don't know much about this actor, but she's pretty famous. She's got a lot of accolades. I couldn't believe all the stuff. She's the daughter of a politician and trader, Larry R. Williams. She was emancipated from her parents at 15 years old.
Because she was on what show?
She was on Dawson's Creek.
That's where she blew up as a kid. Yeah.
Right. Jen Lindley, main character of Dawson's Creek. Also in Shutter Island, Manchester by the Sea. I heard that was a super depressing movie.
Yeah, she kind of that's kind of her gig. Like there's that Blue Heaven one with Ryan Gosling that looks depressing. She's kind of like almost got that kind of like very serious actress type thing going on. But then she shows up in Venom too. So
yeah, and she also won 2 Golden Globes, 1 Primetime Emmy, nominated for 5 Academy Awards and a Tony Award.
Yeah, she's good.
I know she played Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. And actually dated Heath Ledger while working on the film. They had a daughter together, Matilda.
Yep. Can I just jump ahead to a scene in the movie that I want to talk about real quick? I know we're going to get to the movie, but on The Pint here and regular, I watch a lot of horror movies, and part of the thing about horror movies is like anticipation and or tension and or the release of when something happens. man, the scene where she sees them making out in the alleyway of her apartment, I actually felt as uncomfortable as I've ever felt watching a movie before for her.
Right.
For her. Because she's like, they're fucking being so non-cautious, so not cautious at this moment. And then I'm like thinking to myself, is there a possibility that she could see this happen? And I'm thinking to myself, no way. This is going to be a secret that goes on for years. And she sees it
right away.
And the look in her face of like, and then from that point forward in the movie, because she's not in the movie that much longer, but she's just like dead to everything because she knows what's happening. And it's not like, look, it would be bad enough if you felt like you were in a heterosexual relationship in 2024 and your husband was cheating on you with a guy. That's got to be very confusing. But in like 1970, what the fuck?
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. And you could see every emotion on her face in that one moment, like aghast, horrified, scared, like just everything. Like even over time, I think, not right away, but even like a sort of like a veiled sympathy, because that's a man that she loves who's just got this terrible, the secret that he can't reveal.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's got a sham of a wedding and she wears it all on her face. It's amazing.
Yeah, she's good.
Yep. Anne Hathaway plays Lorene Newsom Twist, who becomes Jack Twist's wife.
Yeah.
She plays a rodeo rider. She's also won an Academy Award, a BAFTA, a Golden Globe, and an Emmy. So it's pretty amazing. Her films, I don't know if you knew this. I was not aware. Her films have grossed over $6.8 billion worldwide.
I'd imagine she was in one of the Dark Knights. She's been in some fairly big things, yeah.
Princess Diaries, Devil Wears Prada. She played Catwoman in the Dark Knight Rises.
Oh yeah,
Interstellar, another movie that makes me cry.
Oh, Interstellar. We're going to do Interstellar on the show, and I will have a story because that Interstellar has a real connection to me and to when my wife first got sick. And so that besides that, the movie being emotional on its own, it also gets me, for other reasons.
Then we have Randy Quaid as Joe Aguirre, Ennis and Jack's homophobic sheep herding boss. You know him. He's got another brother, Quaid brother. He was in 18 films before National Lampoon's Vacation. Did you know that?
No.
He started in 1972, and
I know he'd been in things before, but I didn't know he was
18 films, and that's before Vacation.
He sued the makers. You see that?
Yeah. I got that highlighted here. Also in Caddyshack 2, Kingpin, Independence Day, and you ready? The Adventures of Pluto.
Marvin Nash.
Yeah, nice. So in 2006, Randy Quaid sued the producers for misrepresenting the film as a low-budget art house film with no prospect for making money, so that they could get his pay rate down.
Right.
So he got screwed. I don't really remember what he got out of it, but
that was right around the time too, though, that he was starting to become like a crazy person.
Yeah.
I don't know if they paid him off or not, but and that's not saying that couldn't have happened. I mean, the producers of Hollywood films aren't known as being necessarily like the best folk on earth either, right?
No, the least best probably. Maybe a little bit above lawyers.
Right over lawyers.
Sorry, all you lawyers out there.
What do you call 1,000 Hollywood producers at the bottom of the ocean?
What?
A good start.
Excellent. All right, a few more here. Like I said, it's full of stars. Linda Cardellini as Cassie Cartwright.
She just about makes my testicles explode in this movie.
She is on my list.
She is. Yeah. She is so fucking hot in this movie. She's so fucking hot, period. But I didn't know she was in this at all. When she shows up,
yep,
it's Ennis.
The blonde hair.
Ennis is in a bar, and there's a woman at the jukebox behind him. And watching the movie, you could tell he's probably going to chat her up, or at least talk to her, and maybe they'll end up talking. But I didn't know it was her. And then she comes over, and I'm like, oh my god, this Linda Cardellini. My testicles are going to explode.
And then she takes her shoes off and puts
Yeah.
her on his lap. Like,
Yeah.
So you will know her from, and we talked about this a long time ago, Dee Snider's Strangeland.
Oh, fuck, I forgot that.
I think that was her first role, or
Yeah.
very, very early role, if not her first.
She was on Freaks and Geeks, yeah.
Freaks
too.
and Geeks, which is one of my all-time favorites.
Great show.
ER, Mad Men, Legally Blonde. And then I have never seen this one, but The Curse of La Lorna.
I never saw that. She was also extremely hot in Grandma's Boy, too.
Yeah, that too. Yep. Then we have another hottie, Anna Faris as LaShawn Malone.
I was like, is that Anna Faris?
Yeah.
She's only in that one scene, but yeah.
So she is a wife of a dude that Jack Twist has a implied carnal relationship with.
Who's also fucking Hopper from...
Who happens to be David Harbour, or
Yeah.
Hopper from Stranger Things.
Because again, I was like, is that David Harbour? All these folks 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you all know who David Harbour is probably, but if I have to tell you, Hellboy.
Everybody's like, oh, Ron Perlman. Okay,
Yeah.
I get it.
Or Violent Night.
Yes, there you go.
And there's more, but I'll stop here at Kate Mara, who plays Alma Delmar Jr. Yeah, she plays a junior.
So weird that I don't know if that's a real thing, and now I'm curious. Is it a real thing to give a daughter a junior name after the mother?
I thought it was cool. Maybe it's a Western thing. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But she does play the older version because there's like 2 or 3 versions of this character in the movie, because it spans 20 years. But she is the oldest version of Ennis's eldest daughter.
The only part of, not the only part of the movie. I had a problem with the casting because in real life, she's 4 years younger than Heath Ledger, and they don't age him up enough to ever look like he could be her father.
Yeah.
She looks like someone he could be dating. And I just thought that was an odd choice. And she wasn't even famous at the time, right? Like
I think they do freckle up her face a little bit just to give her like little youthful quality, but
they don't make him look old enough at any point.
They never spend a lot of time, either him or Jack or Jake.
Jack Twist, they give him a mustache.
Yeah.
And, try to, they make him a family man. But Ennis kind of looks the same through the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So her sister is Rooney Mara, and she's got other siblings, but I didn't know this either. She's got a lot of New York football Giants heritage.
And Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, Pittsburgh Steelers as well. Yep.
She has it written into her. Did you read the contract thing?
No, I didn't.
When the Steelers won their Super Bowl in the early 2000s, she couldn't go because she was filming something. So she had it written into her contract that anything she films, if the Giants or Steelers go to the Super Bowl, she can leave for like 3 or 4 days to go see the game and come back.
Awesome.
And it's happened 3 times since, I think, 2 Giants and 1 Steelers Super Bowl.
Amazing.
Since the one I think she missed the Steelers Seahawks, and then she's seen everyone since.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a big role in the Netflix show House of Cards. She's in We Are Marshall, 127 Hours. She was, Susan Storm in Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got one other note on the cast, because this guy didn't make the cast because he was too creeped out by the script.
Oh, geez.
Lee met with Mark Wahlberg for one of the roles.
Oh, he couldn't do
Marky
it.
Mark himself, and he just couldn't get past it.
Yeah.
Hey, it's hard. I mean, I don't think I could do that.
I don't know. I mean, they really, one of the things that surprised me about this movie, and we'll get into it, is that I thought there was going to be a lot more like actual sex scenes.
Yeah. No, they don't.
There's one. It's hardcore. I mean, or at least it's, it's not hardcore, but it's like, it's 2 guys fucking. Right?
It's rough.
I mean, It's rough. Yeah. All right. Let's get into the movie. So this film is pretty much based on a real life incident that me and Lloyd had lived through, back in 1963. Ennis Del Mar is a orphaned, youngish cowboy. Parents had died. Well, we find that out through some dialogue later. Raised by his siblings, and he goes to get a job with the Randy Quaid character, herding sheep on Brokeback Mountain. And Jack Twist shows up, and he is an ex-rodeo cowboy, and he also wants to get this job. Now, Manster, I want to talk about this. You had asked me a question the other day before I'd seen this, and you had asked me what I felt like, because this is actually kind of like a talking point of the movie.
Yeah.
Is to what these characters, I guess, sexual proclivities were right at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I think, and you tell me if you agree. First of all, I think obviously they're bisexual, but here's what I'll say about that. I think Ennis is a deeply repressed homosexual who grew up in in Wyoming in a time where it wasn't okay to be a homosexual. I think Jack Twist is a homosexual who is clearly, he's not open about it, but he's the one through the movie is like, we could build a life together. Whereas Ennis is like, don't talk about that shit out loud. Right. So I think they're two gay men. I think Ennis is closer to actually being bisexual because I think he has probably feelings for Alma and I think he likes banging women. Jack, on the other hand, only ends up with the Lorene character because he's just getting rejected so much by Ennis that he just wants to feel something. Is that how you feel or no?
Okay. It's funny you should bring this up because I have some notes here. And before I get into my feelings, let me say this. There are many of the LGBTQ plus advocates who feel that these characters should both be considered gay and not bisexual at all.
I think Jack is gay. I think Ennis is bisexual, heavily repressed homosexual feelings.
Yep. Well, they feel, that the film consistently shows their dissatisfaction with their heterosexual partners and their deep and emotional, physical fulfillment with each other.
Right.
Which I guess just flat out, that makes you gay. But here is what the Brokeback Mountain author, Annie Proulx has stated. And this is a direct quote, so I'm reading a quote here. How different readers take the story is a reflection of their own personal values, attitudes, hang-ups, etc. It is my feeling that a story is not finished until it is read, and that the reader finishes it through his or her life experience, prejudice, worldviews, and thoughts. Which is an interesting, I think, way for the author to...
It's interesting. I mean,
to not say, yeah, this character's gay or this character's bi or whatever.
Right. I think they make it clear that Jack is, at the very least, if they're both gay, Jack is very easily accepting of being gay, and Ennis is not. Ennis is very afraid of, and Ennis has a reason. We will find out in the story that when he was a kid, there was a couple guys that lived in his town, and they were thought of as being gay, and they got killed, or one of them got killed, dragged around by a rope on a truck by his penis till it ripped off, and his father made him go look at the body.
Yep.
So he's traumatized. He's traumatized by the idea of homosexuality, but he's probably always felt something. So they go to get this job, and right off the bat, it's very clear that Jack is checking out Ennis in every way, shape, or form.
So right away, yeah.
Right away.
Oh, by the way, it was my original opinion that Ennis was not a gay person going into this relationship. Whether he knew or not, he just wasn't in his mind. And I think he fell in love with Jack. I don't know if that makes him gay or made him gay or bisexual, but he fell in love with Jack regardless of, what sex he is.
I think that means at the very least he was open to anything. I think then you can get into the argument of like, look, and I'm not saying this to be like tough macho guy, because I'm always like saying like, I think this guy's hot or whatever. And that's true.
Yeah.
But to act on it is different. I don't find men sexually attractive. So like their first encounter, and we'll get to it, is like, oh, Ennis is freezing outside and he goes into the tent with Jack, and then like it just takes over. I can't imagine me in a situation where I would be at that moment where I'm like, oh yeah, it's happening. I'm fucking this guy.
Yeah, that moment.
Right.
We'll
like that. Right. For me personally, doesn't mean anything to anybody else. So Jack's checking him out, and essentially they get their duties, right? Their duties are going to be, you're going to go up on Brokeback Mountain, which seems like for months, you've got this giant sheep flock to take care of. one of you is going to be like home base operator, and one of you is going to be the guy who takes care of the flock of sheep away from home base. You're going to have breakfast together every day. And then, so Ennis is going to be home base guy. He's got to put in the shopping orders with a courier and all this stuff. And then Jack Twist takes all the sheep to the top of Brokeback Mountain to graze, but he has to sleep away from them, away from Ennis. He has to sleep in the cold. They can't have fire because they had a fire one year and half the sheep got attacked by something. So these guys go up there.
Why do you think they need to be separated so far away like that?
Well, because they need to keep camp going with a fire and stuff.
All right, so they need to keep that going somewhere else.
That has to be going, and they can't, for whatever reason. I don't remember what he said, but he said that with the fire, they got attacked. And we see like through the course, and then it's just like the first half hour is like just a montage.
Yeah, so it's at least half hour, 40 minutes of just beautiful scenic, mountain vistas and sheep. Who would ever thought that, like just this massive herd of sheep going over the land would be so beautiful? But
yeah.
I really thought it was like,
and they start off kind of like, adversarial, but they start to become like a unit, like they're working together. And then at some point, Jack makes a pass at Ennis.
Well,
right?
He's sick. Jack is sick and tired of being alone up on the mountain. And Ennis offers to switch duties.
Right.
So then Ennis is up on the mountains, but that one particular night, they were drinking a lot. And he got too drunk to ride back up to the sheep. So he just laid out on the ground, basically.
Right, but before that, because we will talk about that now, but didn't Jack make a pass at Ennis before that? Like, maybe you think like he went to go hug him or kiss him or something, and Ennis like fucking fought him off. I don't think. I thought that happened. I think
that was after.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ennis is too drunk to go back to the flock of sheep. They leave it was crazy. They leave the dogs. The dogs are like, and the dogs do it. Like the dogs are
fucking
like,
smart are those dogs, man.
Yeah.
Man.
Like, I'm going to go back and I'm too drunk to come back, but the dogs are like, don't move, sheep. Don't fucking move. So, Jack is in the tent and he's sleeping well. And Ennis is like fitfully freezing outside.
Yeah. Groaning and whatnot.
Groaning, moaning, shaking. So Jack like kind of says, come inside, like, get in the tent. And no sooner do they eventually get in it. It's not even like played off like, it takes a little while.
Yeah.
Kind of gets in the tent.
It seems like 5 minutes later.
5 minutes later, they just start kissing. And Ennis is like very much cautious about it. And Jack is very much into it. And it seems like maybe it's not going to go too far. But then we get the present your ass moment. Right?
So he pulls his arm over, right? To like get some warmth, presumably, but he's pulling his arm over.
And he pulls his arm down to his fucking jock.
And then he pulls it down, and then they get up, and you think they're going to start college wrestling.
Right, yeah.
They're doing the college wrestling stance, and they're just about to go at it. And then Jack unbuckles his own pants.
Yeah.
And then it's on.
It's on. And if there was any question, if you've never seen Brokeback Mountain as to who's the top and who's the bottom, it's Ledger is the top. So he buckles his pants and Ennis bends him over and then he like just straight up G move, pulls his pants down around his knees and then spits in his hand or licks his hand and then just, obviously gives the old butt a little bit of lubrication and he bangs the shit out of him.
Yeah, and it looks like it hurts.
Oh yeah. He's fucking thrusting because Ennis is like fucking just. He's like I said, he's wound. This guy is wound up.
So
this
tight.
guy is gonna. If you don't know what happens at the very end of the story, but at like 52, he's gonna have a stroke. He's done. Like there's no way. So this happens, and then we kind of get like we kind of see that they like it becomes a thing where it's becoming more free to the point where Randy Quaid's character comes to bring them something or relieve them, and he sees them fucking. Because these two guys can't fucking stop touching each other.
Yeah, they're like both half naked, running around and horsing around,
kissing, all this stuff. So he knows right away he doesn't like these guys because he's not the kind of guy that would like homosexual men working for him. He lets them work out the rest of the summer or whatever it is.
Cuts it short by a month, though.
Yeah, does he? I didn't really understand. Does he fire them, or does he just tell them?
No, he doesn't fire them. Then he just says they blame it on an upcoming storm.
Right.
Because all of a sudden, because at one point they had a hailstorm, right? And then their herd got entangled with like a Mexican herd or some other herder.
It was a Canadian, I think.
Canadian, and yeah. And then it was shortly after that they said, well, another storm is coming and we have to take the sheep down. And they're like, Ennis was really upset, not only because obviously they're going to lose their time together, but the money
Right.
he's trying to make.
Right, and the whole movie in the end, what I mean, and we'll get to that, but the whole movie, the reason it's called Brokeback Mountain is because that is the happiest time of both of their lives. Was that period of time. They're constantly, and we'll see that they're constantly trying to regain it and relive it, and they can't because it's not the same time. So Jack is kind of heartbroken because when he says goodbye to Ennis is just like, are you coming back next year? And he's like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, Jack wants more. Jack wants him to say, like, let's go, like, live in a fucking cottage together.
They actually, so before they parted ways at the end, that's when they got into the brawl.
Right.
And that's where the bloody shirt comes from, which comes to play in the very end of the movie.
Right. They get into a fight over what's happening.
Yeah.
Ennis tries
They don't know how to deal with it, so they fight.
Right. Yeah, like, guys, they fucking beat each other up. And then they leave, and Ennis takes off, and Jack is really hurt, and we think, oh, well, Ennis must just be like, like this is a one-time thing. But then Ennis dips off into like an alleyway and like is like crying and freaking out because he clearly has feelings for Jack. He's punching a wall. They said that was Heath Ledger did that and actually hurt himself.
Yeah.
Some guy walks by and is looking at him and he's like, who the fuck are you looking at? Like, he's fucking just like crazy. And
that
then
was such a believable scene because he was even retching, right? I don't know if he was literally puking or not, but
he was almost throwing up in the alleyway because he's just, he just did all this shit. Like, it doesn't matter if you, however you look at it. Okay, so if you want to continue in that way, you feel like you can't because you're in 1965 or whatever, and that's not how the world works. Or if you think, oh man, that was a huge mistake. Well, guess what? I fucked a guy. Now that's on my fucking checklist. I didn't want that there, but he did it. So so it's confusing to him. And then the next bit of the movie, like the next chunk of the movie is kind of like time lapsing through the next 20 years where
their next part of their lives where they're just living this fake sham of a life.
Right. They both get married. Ennis gets married right away because he even told Jack he was getting married in November.
Yeah.
He gets married to Alma, the Michelle Williams character. They seem to be starting off good. She gets a job in a grocery store. They have a couple kids. They name one of the daughters Junior, which is fucking weird. And then Jack, you kind of see Jack floating around, and there's multiple times that you see him kind of flirting with guys,
trying to pick guys up,
trying
in the alleys,
in the alleys of Mexico.
Yeah,
trying to fuck prostitutes in the alleys of Mexico. But then he eventually meets the Lorene character played by Anne Hathaway, who's this hotshot rodeo woman, and she comes on to him, and they fuck the first night they meet, and we get to see Anne Hathaway's tits.
Yeah,
nice
thanks. Titty shot.
Thank you for that. And then they have a kid as well. So they don't see each other again. What is it? 4 years? They say.
Yeah, I think the first break was 4 years.
So for 4 years later, they get in touch again.
Yeah, all of a sudden we get a postcard from Jack to Ennis.
Yeah, and he says, "I'm going to come down and see you. I live in Texas. Let's go up to Brokeback Mountain and go fishing." So Ennis is like, for the only time in the movie we see him, he's like giddy. He's giddy that Jack's coming.
Yep.
And things are getting kind of rough with Alma, where she's working a lot at the grocery store, and he doesn't seem to be working a lot. He sits around and he drinks. He, like, when Ennis comes when Jack comes after the 4 years, he's sitting by the window drinking and smoking cigarettes like a crazy person because he cannot fucking wait. And this is when he shows up, he goes to meet him at the truck, and this is the scene where they back.
This scene to me was so crazy because I mean you're just right out in the open.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Let me ask you a question.
I was a little upset by that because I don't think that either one would have done that, but they did.
Well, let me ask you a question though, without getting into specifics. Have you ever done something that at that exact moment is crazy for you to be doing? I have done stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I feel like that's what happened with them, is that they hadn't seen each other in 4 years. They had this connection, whether love is on the docket or not, they missed each other. But like, then you get that scene where Alma sees them making out, and man, my fucking stomach dropped. My stomach dropped. What an effective moment in a movie. And she knows what's going on. She knows the deal. They go off, they go to a motel, and we don't see any more sex, but we get a lot of like loving talk, and a lot of it is Jack.
Oh, naked jumping off a cliff?
Yes.
That looked pretty damn fun, actually.
Yeah. Jack tries to convince Ennis over and over again to let's start a business, let's do this, let's do that. And Ennis is just constantly like, go out, take care of the kids, gotta work, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Always got to do something that, opposed to what someone's asking him to do.
One of the harshest lines in the whole movie, I in my head, it went burn, was after Alma knows that he's fucking around with Jack, and they're fucking. Alma and Ennis are in their marriage bed having sex, and she says something to him about, I think, putting a condom on, and he's like, "What? You're afraid to have another one of my babies?" And he's like, and she says, "If you could support it," and like he just pulls out and like goes to bed because she is just like, she's tired of his shit, kind of, right? Like we see scenes in the movie where he drops the kids off at the grocery store to go hurriedly see Jack. I felt bad for her, man. I did feel bad for her.
And it wasn't that same scene where he wants to do her in the butt.
Oh, no, that's earlier. He does her in the butt.
Earlier, yeah.
There's two scenes earlier that like show you that he's trying to relive the Jack stuff. Right after they get married, they're sledding down a hill, and when they get to the bottom of the hill, he kind of has like a wrestling match with her.
Yeah.
And then later when they're having sex, he's on top of her, and it's kind of like, like love making. And then he rolls her over and
rolls her right over,
fucks her in her ass. And I'm like, okay, all right. He liked the old man chowder. Okay. So this kind of stuff keeps on going on. A little bit of Jack's stuff is Jack is kind of living a decent life. He works for his father-in-law who can't stand him.
Yeah, he quits the rodeo, becomes a tractor salesman.
He's a tractor salesman for his father-in-law, who's a rich tractor supply guy. One of the best scenes with him is when he finally puts the guy in his place.
The TV?
At Thanksgiving with the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you see, Jack, I think this movie, we're supposed to see more of Ennis than Jack, but when we do see Jack, his biggest hurdle is his father-in-law treats him like a fucking dickhead. Yeah. And the father-in-law and him are having a fight at Thanksgiving over whether or not to keep the TV on, the football game on. And Jack wants it off and the father-in-law wants it on. And after they go back and forth, turning it on and off, the father-in-law goes to back, turn it on again. And Jack, for the first time in the movie, is like, sit your fat fucking ass down. You're in my house. It's my holiday. It's my turkey, because he also tried to trim the turkey. And you could see Anne Hathaway's character like get excited because
you want your man to do that.
Yeah, like tell your fucking overbearing father to shut the fuck up. They keep on coming back together to have.
It seems pretty frequently.
It seems like a couple times a year.
At first it was like once in 4 years, but then it seems like every few months.
To the point where Alma divorces Ennis because she's just done with it. She ends up marrying the manager at the grocery store that she.
Always making excuses not to be with his family.
Yeah. At the very end of the movie, when his daughter at the time, who's 19, tells him that she's getting married, he tries to get out of it. Yeah. Like he's like, I might not be able to do it because of work,
Yeah, you're expecting me at the Tetons.
Yeah. And then finally he understands,
Yeah, that's where his moment of character development happens.
Yeah. But they're having like, because Anne Hathaway says it at one point to Jack. She's like, you go on these fishing trips. Like, why doesn't he come here? Like, you drive from Texas to Wyoming 3 or 4 times a year to spend a long weekend with this guy. Why doesn't he come down here?
Yeah.
And that also goes, in fact, with the fact that Jack is just more affluent to doing this, and Ennis is just hiding it all out.
Yeah.
Ennis ends up dating the Linda Cardellini character, rubs her feet, jealous. Jack's life, just kind of keeps going on and going on until they have what ends up being their final rendezvous at Brokeback Mountain, and they have a conversation, Manster, and
that was rough.
Where does it kind of end up with the two of them?
Yeah, it ends up with Jack is really pushing. What have we got? We've got nothing. we've had these moments here at Brokeback Mountain. That's all we got is Brokeback Mountain. We could have had such a good life together. We could have made it and had, loving life, but no. And they get to another argument, a fight there.
They start to, well, he goes to touch, he goes,
oh yeah. And then he goes to like console him. He's like, get the fuck away from me.
Yeah.
Ennis says, but he won't, he doesn't. And they have this massive embrace, and you can just see how broken Ennis is at that point.
Yeah. Because he makes it clear, because Jack accuses him of not caring. And he tells him, like, this is all I have. Like, everything else I have is bullshit, except for what we have here. But he's also afraid because he has, he had the bad experience of seeing the guy. He's also being, at the time, cautious and more smart than Jack is.
Yeah. And he's got to take care of 2 girls. I mean,
right. He's got 2 daughters. Yeah.
Jack's got a father-in-law, you don't have to worry about any of that.
It's like that one moment that I felt so bad for Jack, where Jack drove from Texas to Wyoming, and Ennis is like, well, this is the only weekend this month I have my kids. I can't do anything with you.
Yeah.
And he just gets back in the truck and leaves.
Right.
I would spend the week in Wyoming just doing other shit. Like,
yeah.
That cannot be a short drive. That cannot be a short drive.
Yeah. 1,000 miles.
So, Jack lays it all on the line and, kind of gives out that like iconic line of like, I wish I knew how to quit you, which is actually a great line, because I think we've all felt that way in some way, shape, or form about something in our lives. Me personally, It's like Ben and Jerry's. Like, I wish I knew how to quit you. My life would be so much easier if you weren't so delicious. But yeah, and they kind of go their own ways another time. And they've been doing this a couple times a year. And Ennis tells Jack, he's like, well, the next one we could do is November. And Jack's like, well, what about August? He's like, I can't do August.
Yeah.
Like my work stuff's going on. So they kind of break away, kind of like in a fight. And Ennis ends up, after some time, he breaks up with the Linda Cardellini character, and he goes to the mail one day. And this is rough if this is how they used to do it. It's a hard way to find out.
Yeah, you just get a return postcard.
Yeah, he gets a return postcard that he sent to Jack, and what does it say across it?
It's stamped deceased.
Yeah. Yeah, like not returned to sender, not like deceased.
No note from his wife.
Nothing.
No. Yeah, she had a postcard there, and she knew where the address was, right? Oh, maybe it went to a PO box. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, but still.
But anyway, yeah, that's rough.
So he calls Lorene.
Yeah, and I have some questions about this scene.
Well, I do too.
So
I do too. Okay. So he calls Lorene. And he says, I'm Ennis Del Mar. And she goes, I know who you are. You and my husband went fishing a million times over the last 15 years. Her face is very telling in the whole thing too. Like she knows that she knows Jack was probably gay, and she knows that this was probably one of his guys. She tells him a story that Jack was driving a vehicle, had a flat tire, went to go change it. While pumping it up, the rim exploded, bashed him in the nose, broke his nose, knocked him out on the side of the road, and he drowned in his own blood. While she's telling that, Ennis is mentally picturing Jack being killed by a bunch of fucking hillbilly.
Yeah, like he saw, or like his dad showed him.
Like his dad showed him, and they're bashing his face in with a tire iron. And she's telling the story, but so what is your question? Because I think it's the same as mine, probably.
So my question was, so the first time I saw that, just by different types of storytelling that you've seen over the years in movies, somebody's telling you one thing, but you're visually seeing another thing, meaning there's a conflict there. That's not really what they're telling you, a lie. But from everything that I've read, it's just a vision that Ennis is having. So that is my question. Is that really what happened? Or is that just what Ennis is picturing would have happened to Jack?
My opinion is this. She knows that they were together. So that part of her facial expressions and stuff was real.
Yep.
He got killed by the tire rim. And Ennis, who has been cautious this whole time and afraid to show his true feelings, is going to what he thought was a good possibility of happening. But I don't think that happened. I think Jack died in an accident.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
After rewatching it this time, that's what I think happened.
Right. So we find out that Jack's wishes were to have half of his ashes spread on Brokeback Mountain, which she says she doesn't understand why. Like, she's like, I don't even know if this is a real place.
Yeah.
Like, cause Jack is such a, like, you know, he's one of those guys who just kind of says things. Like, she says, like, you know, it's a place that has like whiskey springs and, you know,
yeah, it's a fantasy world.
It's a fantasy world. And Ennis decides to go to Jack's parents' house to get half of his ashes. So what happens there, Master?
So he meets Mom and Pop Twist. Great name.
It is a great name.
By the way, I didn't take their names because there's so many characters, but the mother was in Psycho 3.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I forget her name. But anyway, the mother is very receptive to Ennis and very open to, you know, the mother knew. I'm sure the father knew as well. But the father was one of those very adamant, you know, he wanted to be, you know, sprinkled over Brokeback, but we got a family plot and that's where he's going.
Right.
You know, that kind of character. So Ennis goes up to his room. The mother encourages him to go up there, and he's just looking around. You know, it's like a little boy's room, teenager's room. And then he sees kind of like tucked away behind this sort of board is the two shirts that they wore together. Because what we didn't mention is when they first left Brokeback Mountain, Ennis was like, "Where's my shirt? Like, I can't find my shirt."
I'm glad you said that because I didn't hear that line of dialogue.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how he got the shirt.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad you, okay.
So that's harkens back to that. But yeah, so in there's another thing here that I picked up on. I don't know if it's symbolic or if it's just like, hey, this is what happens.
The reversing
so he
of
picks
the
up,
shirts?
the reversing. So he picks up the shirts. Ennis's shirt is on the hanger, and then Jack's denim shirt is on top of Ennis and covering Ennis's shirt. And he looks at the sleeve, and it's all bloody. You know, it's blood from like 20 years ago. And he smells it, and you know, of course, tears come to his eye, and he wraps it up and he brings it down. And I love the little nod that goes on between him and the mother.
She gives him a bag too.
Yeah,
like
she gives him a paper bag. Yep.
I got choked up at that scene because I felt like this mother in 1970 or whatever, 83, this mother who lives, you know, like in this rural existence, knew what her son was, and she's not going to say it out loud, but she's okay with realizing that she's meeting the person that her son cared about the most.
Yeah.
It was touching. Yeah. Yeah. So she gives him the bag. He takes the shirt. He goes home, and, you know, he talks to Alma Jr. She's going to get married. And at the end of the movie, he's just going through his closet.
Yeah.
On the door of the closet. And this was Heath Ledger's idea. He said to Ang Lee he wanted to do this. The shirts are now reversed. Right. So it's like Jack symbolically is now more than encompassing Ennis. And the last line of dialogue is he touches the shirt and says, "Jack, I swear," and then shuts the door and the movie ends. And what does he swear? I don't know what he swears. I don't know.
Jack, I swear.
I don't know if he's swearing that he's going to maybe live his life the way he wants to.
I don't know.
I don't know. But man, they're both good in this movie, but fucking Heath Ledger is off the charts good in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's incredible. All right, that's Brokeback Mountain from 2005. Manster, let's talk about the old BO, the box office.
This country, you got to make the money first.
So this had a budget of $14 million. And in the first weekend, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, here we go. In that limited release weekend,
yes,
it made $191,000.
Okay.
Limited release. But it really picked up after that. So domestically, $83 million, and then worldwide, internationally 98, so worldwide total 178 million. And it just kept opening in more and more theaters as it got a wider release. So its biggest release was February 3rd. So what was the original date you said?
December 9th, 2005.
Right. So for like 2 months, it just kept going to more and more and more theaters, making more money. For that weekend, I'll give you a couple. Brokeback came in 15th. Not very good. Number 7 that week, also in its first week of release, Memories of a Geisha.
Oh, yeah.
And then number 1 in its first week, Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And then, so for the year, I'll give you a few. Brokeback came in number 22. Not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, well, especially for a movie that has, there's an audience against this movie, right? Like,
yeah,
the people are not going to go see a movie like this. There's some people.
So it was up against number 3 that year, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Your Mother Snatch.
Yeah, I like that one.
290 million. Number 2, The Chronicles of Your Mother Snatch.
The Chronicles of Narnia.
291 million. And the number 1 movie, of course, Star Wars 3, Revenge of Your Mother Snatch.
That's a good one. That's my favorite. Padme did not make it. No, my mother snatch.
One thing I want to bring up, I totally forgot. Early on, when they're on the mountain, Heath Ledger makes a comment, I don't eat soup.
Yeah, he really doesn't want soup.
And then at some point after a couple weeks of beans, Jack's like, no more beans. So do you think that was like getting ready for like butt stuff, maybe?
You think maybe they didn't want to have like any accidents while they were doing
maybe.
Stuff?
Like enough beans, we got to calm down on the beans.
I think that the amount of time that passed, they ate beans every day. Yeah. That had to be rough. Because, like, remember,
I can't even imagine my stomach after like 2 days of eating beans.
When he tells the courier to get them the soup, and the courier's like, I thought you don't want soup. He's like, don't want beans.
Never too early for soup.
Yeah. I love soup. I would be fine with soup.
Yeah, it depends what's in it.
Like a good chicken noodle or an Italian wedding or something.
Yeah. Yeah, a good pho.
Oh, fuck, yes.
It's nice and good.
I love pho. All right, let's fucking rate this fucking thing.
Hit me with it. Just give it to me straight.
All right, 0 to 5, 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the best thing ever. Again, before we rate it, just want to throw that out there again. The trevorproject.org, good resources for the LGBTQ community, all kinds of stuff in there. So check it out. I'll go first so that Lloyd doesn't get too fucking excited about this. I had never seen this before. This was a pretty popular movie at the time. It was obviously a contender for Best Picture, won Best Director. I'd never had a problem with seeing this movie because it was a gay love story per se. I'm not the kind of person to watch love story films. Like, I don't really like rom-coms. I don't really like movies that are, like kind of just focusing on relationships. I like things that have laser beams and fucking mutated fucking crocodiles. Like, that's kind of just where I roll. But I'm glad I finally watched this. It's a hard watch because it reminds you of the fact that, as dumb as it sounds, it's not easy being a gay man. It's not easy being a lesbian. It's not easy being somebody that is in some way, shape, or form different. And again, as I mentioned earlier, like, how hard must it be to just want the simplest of pleasures in life? Like being able to say, I love somebody and I have a relationship with somebody, and being able to tell people about it, is like a basic human right. And unfortunately, it's not necessarily there for us yet at this point. And it wasn't 50 years ago when this movie took place. The only time these two guys really feel alive is with each other, and they can't be with each other. They're both good in it. Jake Gyllenhaal's good in it, but fucking Ledger is excellent in it. He just seems all on edge at all times. You believe that this is a guy that's as repressed as possible. There's a great scene where he like almost puts down like two fucking biker dudes that are being rude at at a 4th of July gathering. They're being real fucking gross. Like, oh, where's all the snatch? And he's sitting there with his wife and kids, and he tells them to be quiet. And they kind of tell him to fuck off. And Heath Ledger is like, like this 6'2" skinny-ish guy. But like, you saw how dangerous he was in The Dark Knight, and you get it here too. Like, he knocks one of the guys straight out and scares the other guy off. And there's a literally, I've seen this shot before, but there's a great wide shot of him standing there over them while the fireworks are going off behind him.
Such a good angle.
It's so fucking good. It's just a really interesting movie. You want to root for them, but you know that it's not going to end with them, like, you know, having a cottage together or a business together. Because that's not how life always ends. I'm going to go 4. I give this a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed this movie a lot. Manster, what do you got?
All right. So I'm first going to give you I saw this. I'm just going to guess and say I saw it in 2006 because I saw it shortly after it came out. So 40-year-old Lloyd had no hangups about, you know, homosexuals and stuff like that. Nothing like that going on. 40-year-old Lloyd didn't believe the relationship. I just couldn't get my head into believing that night in particular would have happened like that. And that the whole rest of, you know, their years, it just didn't feel real to me. It just felt like a movie that was trying to show us something. So that would have been probably a 2. All right. So now I haven't watched it since then. And this is the first time I've rewatched it. And I actually bought it because I was going to rent it. And it was only $1 more to buy it. So this older and wiser Lloyd appreciated the movie so much more.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's heavy-handed, like preaching about homosexuality and acceptance. It's not doing that. I don't feel, or I do feel that it's just a story about people and their difficulty in repressing their passion that they have for something. And dealing with it. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be even, you know, 2 homosexual men. It could be anything that's sort of like a forbidden love that you can't, you know, Romeo Juliet kind of stuff. But
right.
It just felt so much more real to me this time around. I think because it focuses on the characters so much, you know, because you could just, it focuses so much on these characters, and you can, you know, like songs, you can apply your own meaning to it, you know? And I think that's what this movie does very well. And like you said, they're both great, but Heath Ledger was fucking legend in this. I mean, such a great role. I mean, I'd put it right up there with the Joker. I mean,
yeah, no, he's great. He's legitimately great in this. Yeah.
And along with that, Michelle Williams, incredible. Just the kind of, like I said before, the duality of all these different emotions, resentment of her marriage, and compassion, and just fear, just everything. She's amazing. And beautiful landscapes, Western landscapes and vistas and cinematography and all that. And there's some pretty good music in it too. We didn't even talk about, but I guess, I don't know if it was like the Ennis theme or something, but there's this recurring theme.
That little guitar riff. I'll be honest, that almost irritated me a little bit.
Yeah, it was a lot, but it was good.
Because it was a lot. It just seemed to hit a lot, but yeah.
And then a great Bob Dylan song at the end, sung by Willie Nelson through the credits, was really good too. But I agree with you. I give it a 4 this time.
All right. So 2 4s from the pint. That equals 8. 8 is great. So yeah, this was a good movie. It definitely was something I'm glad I took off of my list. And I'm also proud to say the pint, we're the kind of podcast that could do Caddyshack one week and Brokeback Mountain the next.
Yeah.
That's fun. All right. We're going to get going. Before we get going, we're not going to do the usual thing and tell you where to find us. I want to take a few minutes and just say that on Friday night of last week, the Manster, myself, Scary Larry, and of course Stu, were lucky enough to be a part of live stream for The Cure Part 8. In the end, ended up totaling $12,000 towards the Cancer Research Institute of America. Awesome. We did over $1,000. Actually a little bit more than, like, the number I've heard. Joey from So Wizard went and checked out some of the starts and stops on the video and said we did like $1,600.
Wow.
Now I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying,
that's awesome.
What I'm saying is, because that was Stu's segment, is that a lot of it was Pint Insiders. Like, I'm not going to name names because I'm going to miss one name and hurt someone's feelings. But every time that "here comes the money" thing went off, it would be this person who's a pint insider, that person who's a pint insider. And for the last few weeks and last few months, I've been ramping this up, and you guys were there. You came through, and I cannot express how awesome that was.
Pint insiders rule.
They absolutely do. Pint insiders rule. Everybody else drools. See ya.
See ya. If you can't fix it, you gotta stand it.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!